Back. It's Monday, October 28th, 2019. Dave Lochran, Adam Scher, 11 basketball games coming off the weekend. What's up, brother?
How's it going, man? Excited. 11 game slate should be pretty fun. A lot of good plays today, I think.
Yeah, I would say so too. Before we jump into any of this, two things. Number one, the Deeper Dive is presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, home of the $250,000 NFL baller, home of the 12K today, or I'm sorry, NFL 10K guaranteed. And of course, we've got basketball today, which means you have the $25,000 baller, 5K to first, $10 to enter, and you can get $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points, those YSRPs, by signing up with us at awesemo.com. It's very simple. Go to awesemo.com, click on the NFL tab. You will see the primetime article by EMAC, phenomenal article, and it's also free. So while you're reading that, click the Yahoo link right at the top, sign up, use the sign-up code AWESEMO when you do, AWESEMO, get your $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. They also have CSV Edit now, which is something many were clamoring for, and some zero management fee contests as well if you get in there early enough. Also, some of the lowest rate you're going to find, or management fees you're going to find in the industry. So head over to awesemo.com, click on the Spotlight. Oh, I almost did Spotlight Hitters article. Click on the Primetime NFL article, and right at the top of that, you'll see the Yahoo link. Get your $30 in YSRPs.
I said Spotlight Hitters in my head as I was following along too.
What'd you say?
I was like listening and kind of ahead of you. And I also said Spotlight Hitters in my head.
Exactly. Dude, the crossover's tough. I know baseball's been not over, but somewhat over for a while now. When you have reads like that, it's like you don't even do the read, but I guarantee when you're following along, you know exactly what's coming.
Yeah, exactly. I knew what you were going to say. And I was like, Spotlight Hitters article, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. But it's the primetime article. It's free, and it's on the NFL tab. Click that link for the Yahoo and head over there, get your YSRPs. All right, so what I actually wanted to do here was just quickly hit on these injuries. When Live Before Lock comes up, they'll have more information. But some big question marks here, Adam. Just want to get your take on whether or not you think they'll play. We do have some guys that participated in shoot-around, which is helpful, Joel Embiid being one of them. He is questionable to play. Reggie Jackson's doubtful. So that basically means out unless he's upgraded to questionable. Jeremy Lamb, out. What else do we have? Anything significant?
Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday questionable. That's the second biggest one other than Joel Embiid. And you know what? Maybe it's the biggest one ahead of Joel Embiid based on the implications if he doesn't play. I think those two are really looming large before we can make any serious decisions.
Yeah, and at the very least, I think Drew is the biggest one in terms of uncertainty because we at least know Embiid went through shoot-around.
Right.
We have the Pelicans beat writers being asked if Drew went through shoot-around and simply replying that there'll be an update on Drew later. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what it means either. And unfortunately, Adam, that game isn't until 8 p.m. Eastern.
Right. So, yeah, I think that Drew is probably the most difficult to deal with, at least.
Agreed. All right. Anything else?
Rubio's probable. Robinson's probable. Len and Turner are probable. Evan Turner, that is. So, yeah, I think it's pretty much just Drew and Embiid.
All right. Let's talk New York Knicks, Chicago Bulls. Josh and I discussed this earlier today. We had some different takes on this game. Reasonable, too, because whenever you're dealing with the Knicks and Chicago Bulls, things get messy. Anyway, the Bulls here, 113 implied total for them. And for the Knicks, hold on. Where's the Knicks at? 111.5. Okay, so 1.5 point spread. 224.5 total for this one, though, Adam. Pretty interesting. That's one of the higher marks on this slate. It does appear the Knicks are playing at a decent pace to start the season. One of the guys I want to start with, RJ Barrett. Big time minutes to start. Highest usage rate on this team over the first 3 games. What do you make of him at his current price point, knowing that maybe the peripherals won't be there, but the opportunity has been large to start the year, and Fizdale clearly seems intent on giving him minutes regardless of whether the score is 100 to 101 or 100 to 81?
Yeah, I mean, we even saw big minutes for him in the preseason to the point that
Right.
Fizdale was getting mocked for, why are you doing this? The thing with Barrett for me, the usage has been there too. So far, obviously, only a couple of games, but a 24.5% usage rate. The peripherals, like you said, maybe, not going to be there. But the thing for me is that if pricing were sharper at this point in the season, I think Barrett would stand out as a good mid-range option because he's not overpriced for the minutes he's playing and the opportunity he has. The problem that I have with getting to him is that with all the superstars still underpriced pretty significantly, and then even the second level of really good players being probably $1,000 less than they should, I don't think Barrett, he's 6,100 on DraftKings, for example. I don't think Barrett is like a 71 to $7,500 player. Whereas you have a lot of guys that I do think are worth about $1,000 more. So he grades out as a perfectly fine option for me in terms of just his salary. But when you start comparing him to other guys on the slate, the opportunity cost starts to become a bit much for me.
So, as we would say, casualty of the slate.
Yeah, and even more so than that, I think casualty of the pricing and the fact that the most expensive player on DraftKings today is $10,600 Giannis.
Yep, for sure. I do like Barrett, and if I end up with some of him, I'd be okay with that. But he's not a priority, and through these first few games, we're going to have a lot of that with guys being in decent spots, but not necessarily priorities. Outside of Barrett, though, do you have any interest in a Knicks team that, as we can see, Fizdale probably himself doesn't even know what's going on with this backcourt in terms of the point guard position? You had people clamoring for Frank Ntilikina the other day going up against Kemba Walker. He did not leave the bench, and they ended up in a game that was very close going into the fourth quarter. They ended up losing by 23 points. I'll tell you what, seriously though, I know it's early in the season, Adam, but the nerves, people are patience is wearing thin with Fizdale already through only 3 games. And at this point, even though Dennis Smith Jr. is out, I don't honestly know what it's going to look like today at the position.
Right, and we never really know what the Knicks are going to look like in general, but my best guess is that Trier and Payton benefit more from Smith being out than Ntilikina. I projected Ntilikina for a handful of minutes just because they need the body. But
how does Payton not have point guard eligibility, though?
that's an excellent question. I hadn't even noticed that because
is that the dumbest thing you've ever seen?
He did last game.
I know he did. I know.
2 games ago.
He's shooting guard only.
Yeah, that must be like a mistake. That can't actually have been intended. But yeah, that's really weird. But with Smith being out, I have Payton at 32 minutes. But the caveat with the Knicks, anytime they play this year, is going to be that the volatility in most of their minutes is going to be a lot bigger than it is for most teams. But I think the opportunity at least is there for Payton. So there are some secondary plays here. We talked about Barrett. I would throw Julius Randle, Payton, and Mitchell Robinson in, but they all have things working against them too. For Payton, it's that there's a lot of guards, but also we have no idea what the minutes actually look like. For Mitchell Robinson, I would be interested because barring or without foul trouble and without blowouts, I think that he actually gets closer to 30 minutes than 19 or 24 that he's been playing. But center is a really, really deep position today with a lot of opportunity costs. So clearly not a priority there. And then really kind of the same thing goes for Julius Randle, who is a power forward or center, depending on your site. There's centers that I like more than him. And then there's a lot of reasonable value at the forward spots. So I think it's tough to prioritize anyone from the Knicks, even though there are some decent options.
Me too. And you know this. I was a pretty big Mitchell Robinson truther last season. I really like what this guy does, and I love players that can rack up big point rebound or big double doubles and block a lot of shots. But just regardless of what we think he's going to get, or I'm sorry, what we have seen him get in terms of playing time, and of course coming back from an injury, how many minutes do you think he gets tonight?
I have him at 30.
You do have Mitchell Robinson at 30. Okay, I think you mentioned that, but why the sharp increase in playing time?
There it is. So the last game they played they lost 118 to 83 against Boston. Robinson played the first 6.5 minutes of the game, subbed back in at about the 8-minute mark in the second
95,
quarter.
by the way, 118 to 95.
What did I say?
83. I don't know where that came from.
I think I read like a line down. But so he picked up 2 fouls in the second quarter and subbed out with 3 minutes and 22 seconds to go. If you assume he plays that final 8 minutes, he would have gotten about 14 and a half first half minutes. So, that puts him at 29 minutes. I think that it also just makes sense for him to be getting the bulk of those minutes going forward because it's Mitchell Robinson. So I think that, projecting him in that 28 to 30 minute range makes a lot of sense.
Okay. How about the other side of this one? Zach Lavine, generally speaking, is one of these players that goes overlooked. Do you remember last year how his price just remained stagnant despite, 40, 50 fantasy points every night?
Yeah, and it's happening again so far this year.
That's exactly where I was going with this one. Yeah. The truth is, should he really be that much cheaper than guys? I know he's not on the slate, but guys like Bradley Beal? I don't know. Bradley Beal is going to have a great season with Washington with John Wall out, but there really isn't that much competition in Chicago either, Adam.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of upside, Lavine's one of those guys where he doesn't necessarily project as the best point per dollar option at his position all that often, but he gives you enormous upside because any given day he can go out there and just chuck up 30, 25, 30 shots. He's not afraid to shoot, and he leads the team in potential assists as well. He just has the ball in his hands a ton. He plays big minutes, and all that's obviously really appealing. So he's never your best, or often not your best point per dollar option, but more than anything, that just drives ownership down. Once again today, we have him projected for 2% ownership on DraftKings. And I don't think he's the best shooting guard option. But when you start factoring in 2% ownership for a guy that has the upside that Lavine does at his salary, he starts to become a pretty appealing tournament option. You don't need to have him in 30% of your lineups to be significantly overweight, and he very easily can win you a tournament.
Yep. I hear you on that. Anyone else for Chicago? Guys like Wendell Carter Jr. will have a role in our lineups at some point this season. Lauri Markkanen already had a monster game and came off two tough ones in difficult matchups against Memphis and Toronto. Thoughts on Markkanen here and his outside shot against this defense?
Yeah, I think Markkanen's another secondary option at power forward. He obviously has a high ceiling, but he's not overpriced. He's just not really cheap either. And I think that the best value, or at least the widest, or the most value options on the slate are at forward. So from a roster construction standpoint, paying up there might not be the approach that I utilize the most. You mentioned Carter, and I think he's really interesting going forward. I mentioned him in the deep dive article just because it's not that I think he's a great play today. His price point is fine, but it's not super cheap. But I think that there are some things that just look really good for him in general. He hasn't played more than 29 minutes in a game this season, but he's dealt with foul trouble. He's dealt with blowouts. I think that if you look at the rotations, that in games where he doesn't deal with either of those things, he can approach 31, 32 minutes. But what really stood out to me is he has the 9th most rebound chances per game this season, despite only averaging 26.4 minutes. If you look at the guys ahead of him, the only player that's averaged less than 31 minutes is Jarrett Allen, and he's still averaged 3 minutes per game more than Carter. So he's been in really good rebounding, he's gotten a lot of rebounding opportunities, and I think that there's a chance when he starts to get more minutes for him to really kind of come out of nowhere at low ownership.
Okay. Anything else for Chicago?
No.
So Indiana and Detroit here is the next one on our list. These teams have already played each other this season, so we have a little bit to go off of. 212.5 total, though. 107 implied total for the Pacers, 105.5 for the Pistons. Pistons 1.5 point home dogs. I said this morning with Josh, though, I don't know if I expect this to continue, especially when Blake Griffin returns, just have that, bolstered, bigger front court. But Sabonis absolutely torched Drummond and this, and guys like Thon Maker in the paint and around the basket in the restricted area last week, or earlier this week. He was 8 for 10 in the restricted area. I think 10 for 12 in the paint. And these guys could not contain him. Every time he'd back him down, one quick post move, and he was to the basket. It'd be interesting to see if that holds up, because we know Sabonis is a good player, and he's finally getting minutes as a starter. What do you make of him today against the Pistons in their second meeting of the season?
I think we finally get some priority plays from this game. Sabonis being one of them. He's still affordable. He has power forward eligibility, and he's playing. Him and Myles Turner both are playing huge minutes. We've seen that. The biggest issue for them in the past was that they basically played the same position, and neither of them were going to just play 12 minutes a night.
So frustrating,
right? But you're not seeing that this year. Turner's played 38 and 42 minutes. Sabonis is playing a ton of minutes alongside of him. I think that I have them both projected at 36 minutes because I don't really want to go above that. But the opportunity clearly there for them both. Sabonis last year averaged 1.03 DraftKings points per minute alongside Turner, 1.32 without him. So even if you project about 33% of his minutes to be without Turner, you're looking at 1.12 to 1.15 points per minute without factoring in the matchup. And then when you consider that he's getting his backup center minutes against, Christian Wood or Thon Maker, and that he doesn't really have a tough matchup even when he's on the floor alongside Turner, I still really like him in the spot.
That's where I'm at too. Also, something to keep in mind, that last game, Sabonis played 33 minutes. He got in very early foul trouble. He played 30 minutes from the second quarter on. So that's really encouraging. Based on that foul trouble, I would put him in a close game. I'd put him at 36 minutes again today.
Yeah, and I think that he could play more. It's just that if I never really project anyone for more than 36 outside of, really weird circumstances.
Unless it's guys that we've seen literally like LeBron towards the end of last season was playing when they were making it like 39, 40 minutes.
Right. But like if you look at, minutes per game at the end of the season, the leader is normally
36.
at like 37.
Yep, exactly. Right. No, it's a good point, and you could play more, but you can't project him for more than that. And you know what? You don't really need to. Like,
right.
If you're projecting Sabonis for 36 minutes, you're probably going to have a decent amount of interest in him based on what he's projected for. Andre Drummond on the other side, we can get to actually, no, let me ask you about Malcolm Brogdon. He's been actually really impressive. And he started off game one terribly, or the first game awfully, and finished still with a 22, 11 points, assist, double-double. He's got double-doubles in both games. You're not going to get great rebounding totals, but there's no doubt here, Adam, that he has completely embraced the role of the primary playmaker in Indiana, coming from a team where, he was the fourth option every night.
Yeah, he's another priority for me tonight. He actually leads the team through the first two games in usage at 24.8%. And while he might not be the leader in usage, going forward, it's worth noting that if you look at his numbers with Milwaukee when he didn't have Giannis or Bledsoe on the floor, he had a usage rate up over 25%. He's not afraid to shoot when, he's not out there with, other ball dominant guys. The assist opportunities are there for him because, again, he's not dealing with Bledsoe. He's not dealing with Giannis, demanding the ball. So I think that he's still cheap. He's playing big minutes, should get 35, 36 minutes, assuming the game's competitive. Not like you have much backcourt defense coming from Derrick Rose or Luke Kennard or whoever else they throw out there. So, again, I just think he's a really strong option at either guard position.
Yeah, I mean, the only part about this game that makes it a little bit less appealing is these are two pretty slow-paced teams, but that's about it. What are your thoughts on Andre Drummond coming off a tough one due to foul trouble, right? He still had 34 fantasy points in 25 minutes, well over a point per minute. Crushed the Pacers for 32 and 23, 7 stocks, by the way, in 41 minutes earlier. Look, like you said, you don't want to project them for 40 minutes, but could Drummond play more than 36 minutes in a competitive game tonight? Absolutely.
Yeah, no question. We saw 42 minutes the first time these two teams played, but you don't have to project him anywhere close to that for him to be one of the best plays on the slate. There's nothing negative I'm taking away from that last game. He played 24 minutes because of foul trouble, like you said. There's nothing there where it was like, oh, we don't want to play him massive minutes. There's no reason to think he doesn't get back to 36 plus minutes here. And it's a great matchup against a much smaller front court. He weighs 30 pounds more than Myles Turner. He weighs 40 pounds more than Domantas Sabonis. There's nobody out there that's stopping him from getting rebounds. There's nobody stopping him from getting putbacks. And he benefits without Blake Griffin on the floor as well. Last year, he had a 26% usage rate without Griffin. He had almost a 28% rebounding percentage, averaged 1.46 DraftKings points per minute without Blake out there. I'm going right back to tons of Drummond again tonight.
We literally just got news that, as expected, Reggie Jackson is out. What's your opinion on Derrick Rose, who has clearly been, I mean, when you talk about the go-to option on a team, yeah, Luke Kennard gets some looks. Andre Drummond cleans up the garbage and gets some easy opportunities around the rim in the pick and roll, or is just sitting there and somehow they find him wide open, which is uncanny. But Rose has a 36.6% usage rate through 3 games, 45.2% assist rate. You're not going to get a lot of rebounding out of him, but he has one of the highest drive rates in the league this season as well. Derrick Rose, while the minutes aren't exactly what you're looking for. He's played 27 last time out with Reggie Jackson sidelined. And look, if Reggie Jackson was playing 32 minutes, I would have an incredible amount of him. But of course, the lack of playing time makes him a little bit less appealing. He is, however, getting a ton of opportunities in this Detroit offense off the bench.
Yeah, the minutes are the only thing holding him back, and unfortunately, there's not much opportunity for him to get more. Dwayne
Right.
Casey said that going forward or later in the season, you could see Rose playing more minutes, but for right now, that 26 to 28-minute range is where he's going to be. So you can't really expect a whole lot, on top of that. But the usage is there. The assist opportunities are there. He has the ball a ton when he plays, and I think that his price tag is still very reasonable. So behind Drummond, he's my favorite play on the Pistons.
I'm with you here. Actually, it seems that we pretty similar takes on this game. Is there anything else for you?
I'll mention Myles Turner also. The problem is that the center position, again, there's a lot of opportunity cost, but he is one of these mid-range guys that has 40 to 45, raw point upside, and he's playing huge minutes, like we mentioned. It's not a bad scoring matchup for him either. He should get plenty of open looks from the perimeter with Drummond, being slow to close out, and so it's a high risk play, especially because of the opportunity cost. But if I am paying down at center in some lineups, he's one of the guys I'd consider.
Okay. Let's talk Toronto and Orlando. Obviously, we want to get all these games in here, and we're on an specifically allotted amount of time, so we got till 6. Toronto and Orlando. If there's games that we're not huge on, I don't want to spend too much time breaking down guys that we don't particularly like. But here's Toronto and Orlando. The lowest total on the slate, actually, Adam, 211. Toronto 108 total, 103 for the Orlando Magic, which of all the teams on this slate is actually the lowest. Toronto's still playing solid defense, one of the best D ratings in the league to start the year. Uh, I love Siakam, but I just don't know how I get to Siakam at his price at 8,700 on DraftKings when, assuming Embiid plays, he's not much more expensive. Drummond isn't much more expensive. Some of these price points feel a bit prohibitive to me, but let's get your take on it.
Yeah, I think this is one of the quicker games for me too. Siakam is my favorite play from Toronto. He has a monster usage percentage so far. He's playing huge minutes, but the problem is exactly what you said, especially on DraftKings, where you have to compare across positions because so many guys have multiple position eligibility. You can pretty much do whatever you want. You have to start. You have to compare Siakam to Embiid, to Drummond, to all these other guys. So I think he's a good play, but it's not a priority. I think he's a better play on FanDuel because he's a small forward for whatever reason. That's a weaker position. You have to roster two of them, and he's affordable. And then on the other side, Nikola Vucevic stands out above everyone else. He's 8,200 on DraftKings, which is nice. 8,600 on FanDuel, where Drummond is more expensive than he is on DraftKings, where Embiid is more expensive. I think it's a really favorable price tag. Not a great matchup, but you should get 34 minutes in a competitive game. He averages about 1.4 fantasy points per minute. I think that he's a strong center option today.
Okay. Do you want to move on?
Yep.
All right. Atlanta, Philadelphia. Embiid did go through shoot around. We've seen crazy things happen with him, and especially early in the season. I'm not going to speculate, or I'm not going to say he's playing, but if I had to guess at him, I do think he's going to play. So we'll do this and we'll make it quick for both. But let's break down the scenario in the event that he does. If he doesn't, it's kind of simple. Al Horford's going to get a ton of opportunity at the 5. It wasn't Kyle O'Quinn starting. Of course, why would it be? Matisse Thybulle started, and you had Harris shift to the 4. That's what they can do with this big lineup. So if he doesn't play, you're going to see more opportunities for Harris and Horford and Simmons and Josh Richards, really all of them. Embiid had 32% usage in the 23 minutes that he played. And Adam had almost 2 fantasy points per minute despite 5 for 14 shooting. So if he plays here and they say that he's not limited at all, and he's going up against the likes of Alex Len and Bruno Fernando, this could be a smash spot for Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I love the matchup. I love the production he brings. The only issue I have is that it's really, assuming he does play, it's still hard for me to project him for more than like 30, maybe 32 minutes at this point. And when you're comparing him to guys like Drummond that can play upwards of 36, and you have Jokic, you have tons of other guys on the slate, that makes it a little bit tough, but it is a great matchup, like you said. And I expect the negatives about Embiid to also be reflected in his ownership. Right now on DraftKings, for example, we have Drummond at 23%. We have Embiid at 6%. So it's still
Huge difference.
right. It's still a big difference. It's just that, there's certainly some risk in the minutes, but outside of that, he should be very productive for whatever time he's on the floor.
Yep, and that's the concern, of course, especially knowing that Andre Drummond's minutes are going to be wild. Do you see any merit to playing both of them?
You certainly can. I mean, there is obviously we're talking DraftKings with that question, and they're both
Right.
really cheap. Like 9,100, even if Embiid played 30 minutes every game the rest of the year, 9,100 is like the lowest price point you would ever get him at.
It's a good point. And
Like
it's not
he can still go for 60 in 30 minutes.
and it's not getting recognized enough because so many other guys are inexpensive as well.
Right. The opportunity cost is enormous, but it's not like we're saying, oh, Embiid's a good point per dollar option. Like maybe he can get you 50. He still projects for like 50 plus, and he'd still get you. He can average 2 points per minute for a game.
Absolutely. Now, if he does play, is there anything you like for the Sixers outside of Embiid?
Not really. I have Simmons, Harris, Horford all has basically like neutral options. But again, like we talked about with RJ Barrett, someone projecting neutral at their salary with the way pricing is right now isn't enough for me to get much of them in lineups.
How about Trey Young? I do worry that this Sixers team is going to make it very difficult to consistently knock down threes just because of their length and speed combined with their ability to close out beyond the arc. But Trey Young's been outstanding. And it honestly might be about time that we stop saying, hey, he doesn't have that same upside as everyone else, because this is ridiculous, man. And these are just the first 2 games of the season. But this is definitely a much more difficult matchup than he's faced against Orlando and Detroit. How do you approach this one for Young, who has eclipsed $9,000?
So I think the thing with Young, it's never a question of his ceiling because he has, he has close to a 40% usage percentage last year. He gets plenty of shot volume up. It's more a question of median projection because he's generally an inefficient shooter. So far this season, he has a 72.6% true shooting percentage. Last year, his true shooting percentage was 53.8%. Not only is that obviously a candidate for extreme regression, but the 53.8% mark is lower than a lot of the similarly priced guards. So you just naturally expect him to, on average, score, not produce as well. So he's still a fine tournament option because he's still not going to get a lot of ownership because he's priced the same as, a lot of guys that project better. But I agree with you too. This is a really scary matchup because of the length that Philadelphia has. Obviously he has the range to just pull up from half court and knock down threes, but you don't really want to count on your guy doing that. And I think they can make it difficult for him. So I have him as a good option today, but he's not a priority for me because of his salary relative to what you can get at the position, for cheaper or what you can get for a little bit more money.
Does the fact that turnovers are -1 on some sites affect your opinion of him, knowing that there's no question he's going to be a very high turnover guy this year with massive usage, being the top playmaker on a pretty fast-paced Hawks team?
He's always going to be a better option on sites that give you a bonus for threes that don't devalue turnovers as much and that give you double bonuses because of his assists.
Okay. Thoughts on the rest of this team? John Collins in a pretty tough spot, especially if both Embiid and Horford are in that front court. And then basically just like tertiary 3-and-D guys that compose the entirety of the rest of this team.
Yeah, not a whole lot else for me. Collins is the only guy I have projected above 30 minutes. And like you said, it's a tough spot for him. It's a tough position. Like I would rather roster Siakam for, a little bit more money.
Okay. Let's talk about Milwaukee and Cleveland because we have to. This is another spot where I don't know how much you're going to find here. We'll obviously jump into Giannis and Antetokounmpo, but you've got a 224 total, 119.8 for Milwaukee, 104.3 for Cleveland. The Bucks are 15.5-point favorites against a very bad Cleveland Cavaliers squad. I guess we can just start with Antetokounmpo. Monster 70 fantasy point performances in back-to-back games to start the year. Sure, one of them was overtime, but give the man some credit. He's, the best player in the league, and his price tag on DraftKings certainly illustrates that. But at 10-6 on FanDuel, but on DraftKings at 10-6, what are you thinking? You've got Giannis at 10-6, Harden at 10-1, Jokic at 9-6, Curry at 9-5, Westbrook, Drummond 94-93, Trey Young at 9, Embiid at 91. Like, what are you doing here with Giannis?
Rostering a lot, especially if ownership stays how it is right now. On DraftKings, we have him projected for 14% ownership, which it makes sense in that he is the most expensive player on the site, and there's no lack of upside from the guys that are cheaper like Harden, Drummond, and Westbrook, etc. Steph Curry you can throw in there too. But at the same time, he averaged 1.7 DraftKings points per minute last season. He's facing one of the worst defenses in the league in Cleveland. And the other thing that probably keeps his ownership down is people will say, "Oh, well, how's he even play 30 minutes here? They're gonna, blow out Cleveland, blah blah blah." But again, I really don't care about that because there's so many ways that he still gets his minutes. And if they do blow them out, he's very capable of scoring 70 in 26 minutes anyway. So if he stays around 14%, I'll be way over that in tournaments. I think that on FanDuel, he's really expensive, but again, with small forward being not a great position, he's still a decent option there. Also, you get more points for blocks and steals, which he obviously contributes as well. So I think a really good play on FanDuel and an even better play on DraftKings. He is my highest projected scorer on the slate.
Okay, which makes perfect sense. By the way, we had a comment in our NBA chat. It was, where are you? Where are you? Miguel Ross says he fouled out both games. Yes, that he did. One of them was in overtime, though. He was already 2 minutes into overtime. And then I think he fouled out, 7-8 minutes into the fourth quarter in that one, which it's a good point, though. The fact that he played 28 minutes and had 71 fantasy points in a 30, 13, 11 triple-double at him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you get a game where it's competitive through the fourth and he doesn't foul out, you probably get like 34 minutes. Obviously, that is asking quite a bit against this Cleveland team, in Milwaukee, but it's probably the plan if it stays competitive. And even if it doesn't stay competitive, there's a really good chance that Giannis is the reason.
Is there anything else for Milwaukee?
Not really. Just in the context of the slate, it's really hard to get excited about guys like Middleton and Bledsoe, even though they do have good matchups.
Okay. Cleveland, on the other hand, man, Kevin Love has produced, decent enough fantasy totals, but I do worry. And I could be completely wrong on this, right? It's very possible that I'm reading into it too much, but it does kind of seem like John Beilein. Is that how you pronounce it, by the way?
I have no idea.
No?
I don't know. I don't follow college basketball, so I don't know.
All right.
Beeline.
What's up?
Beeline.
Like I'm going to beeline it to the whatever?
Yes.
Yeah? You sure about that?
Positive.
Okay. Well, thanks.
I watched a lot of college basketball, and he was still in college basketball. Best I could do.
Perfect. Well, I hate college basketball. John Beilein feels like you might see something where these younger players are getting the lion's share of opportunities. Could it be wrong? Of course, but it is kind of odd that Kevin Love through 2 games this season has an 18% usage rate, Adam. So we've seen some big games thanks to big rebounding and assist totals and another, but he has not broached 10 field goal attempts this season yet.
Yeah, that's weird. He does lead the NBA in rebound chances per game so far. This is the first slate that I've played with Cleveland on it, so I was actually kind of surprised when I was going through and mapping out minutes at how many minutes Love has been playing, how many minutes Tristan Thompson's been playing. I kind of thought Cleveland was going to be a team that was really tough from a minute standpoint for DFS, and so far that doesn't seem to be the case. I think you get 30 plus from Garland and Sexton as well. Chetty probably should be around 30. All that being said, on this slate, I am not getting to anything.
Me neither. By the way, those rebound opportunities, of his actual rebounds, 30 of them are defensive rebounds. One of them is an offensive rebound. So in terms of putback opportunities, we haven't seen any of that either. 1 offensive rebound to 30 defensive rebounds.
I mean, that makes sense as long as Thompson's playing big minutes.
For sure. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Houston, OKC. A little bit of revenge stuff going on here. 227.5 total, 118.8 total for the Rockets, 108.8 for OKC. I tweeted the other day that the good news for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is that Chris Paul appears to have zero interest in playing basketball for the Thunder, Adam. And it really appears that way. Look, could it have just been a few games where he was underwhelming? Sure. Last game was a blowout against Golden State, but man, Washington, that was just a brutal one to watch. And they scored 85 points. No thanks to Chris Paul. what do you make of this OKC team first? Gilgeous-Alexander, the price tag on DraftKings is pretty egregious given his skill set. 7,900 on FanDuel. What are your thoughts on OKC backcourt?
I love Gilgeous-Alexander.
Really, you're okay paying for him tonight?
Yeah, I had him in like 50% of my lineups at 6,500 last game.
Wow, yeah, we're different on that one. I truly worry that when he has bad shooting nights, it's going to get really ugly. But
So
maybe he'll have James Harden on him then.
I mean, I agree that if he has a bad shooting night, it's not going to be good. The peripherals are certainly a question mark when you're playing with Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder, but he led the team in the preseason in usage rate at 28.4%, or sorry, 28.7%. Through the first 3 games this year, he leads the team with a 29.2% usage percentage. And his true shooting percentage this year isn't really a whole lot different than last year, which is something that you like to see, obviously, when you're trying to figure out if something's sustainable. He's at 58.9% this year. He was at 55.4% last season. The biggest difference for him is just the opportunities. His usage rate with the Clippers was 18.5%. And then again, this year he's up near 30%. But that's something that has a lot more to do with the team and with him being aggressive offensively than it does with anything else. He's ninth in the NBA, or sorry, he's tied for 6th in the NBA with 17 drives per game this season. He's playing 36 minutes a game. The guys ahead of him, he's tied with Luka and Lavine in drives per game. He's only trailing Harden, DeRozan, Brogdon, Westbrook, and Irving. I mean, he's really looking like he's going to have tons of opportunity on this team. And if he's going to get those kind of opportunities, while it's not an appealing price tag at first glance, I think that he's actually underpriced.
Okay, you think he's underpriced? Wow. Okay, that's wild. Hey, so where do you have him? Like, is he, what would you say actually, it appears so. He's one of your top plays today.
Yeah, I have him projected about the same as Malcolm Brogdon. The difference being that Gilgeous-Alexander on DraftKings is projected for 1% ownership, and Brogdon is not.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that certainly makes a difference. I think, in cash, I would go with Brogdon all day there, but totally understandable. Now, as far as the rest of this team goes, is there anything that stands out to you?
No, I think that, yeah, I mean, it's secondary options. Like Schroeder probably plays around 30 minutes. He's taken on a huge facilitating role, which has been good to see. But I expect that, I think there's a better chance that Paul eventually starts cutting into Schroeder than that he starts cutting into Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, I don't think Paul is really even capable anymore of getting to the basket like Gilgeous-Alexander is. He wasn't driving a lot at the end of last year. He's not driving this year. I think that there's more risk in Schroeder in that Paul just starts actually, picking up assists and stuff. But nothing but secondary options from the Thunder outside of Gilgeous-Alexander.
All right. Gilgeous-Alexander, 12 rebound chances per game. That seems very high. But yeah, like you said, if he's going to be a high usage guy, and I mean, the usage isn't even close. There's no one else close on the team. So I like that. I just worry that he's not going to be able to maintain that.
The drives were really big for me too. It's not like he's just pulling up and shooting threes.
Yeah, no, look, 17 drives per game is pretty solid. And if you're right, if you're someone that's just jacking up threes, then you have to worry about that just completely unraveling. But in terms of his shooting this season, 31% of his field goal attempts, so almost a third of his attempts are coming from within 3 feet of the basket.
The other reason I think that's important is, especially when you're dealing, with only a few games and looking at usage rate, you can get some kind of inflated ones if guys just are getting wide open consistently. But like that many drives per game is an actual effort to be doing that. It's not, that he's accidentally driving to the basket 17 times a game.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. Is it a lot of let's see, with Gilgeous-Alexander? Yeah, and as in terms of like drive and kick, only 21% of his drives is he passing on them. So
yeah,
that's not a lot.
Yeah, I don't love the assist chances for him, but I think the scoring's there.
Yeah, well, maybe you sold me. I'm still very leery of that price point, but
it's definitely one of those that you're not going to feel good about it. Like the other day, I was confident in my projection, but still, when I saw I had him in like half my lineups at 6,500, it was just like, what the hell am I doing? It worked out, but it's because of playing all last season, it's never going to feel great.
Right. New Orleans, Golden State. As we move. Oh wait,
yeah,
my fault. My fault. I almost skipped over a small piece of this game, like the entire Houston Rockets team. Dude, Westbrook's been crazy good, man. I broke down all the numbers this morning with Josh, and it's wild because who would have thought that the most efficient one was Russell Westbrook to start the season, right? Like he leads the team in rebound opportunities. So step out the way, Clint Capella. But potential assists, Harden is still leading the way there. Of course, usage and usage, 3-point attempts, all of that. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that Harden is going to continue to lead in that category as well. Harden's averaging 24 drives per game, which is insane. 19 for Westbrook. So he's still getting opportunities there. I mean, if you go across the list, it's really fascinating to break it all down, Adam. And here's what I would say. I expect Westbrook to continue to produce at a solid clip, but there's no question that James Harden, who seems to have started off shooting poorly for like 3 straight seasons now, is going to erupt with this insane volume that he's been soaking up over the past few games. Even though, quite frankly, the efficiency's been terrible, but when your usage is sitting at what is it? His usage is 36.6%. It's going to turn around. You're not going to shoot 2 for 18 from 3 all the time.
Yeah, Alex, I'm not sure if you saw it. Alex had a really good tweet earlier about Harden being at the top of his air balls by low model. Yeah, I mean, that's when you look at the two of them, they're kind of different in that Westbrook this season has a 60% true shooting percentage. Coming off a year, he was at 50%, whereas Harden is at 44.9%. Last year, he was at 61.5. The year before that, he was at 62. He's obviously going to start making more shots. And
did you see what his effective field goal percentage is?
27.4%.
27.
Yeah. And so it's not like he's going to be low owned, but there's naturally going to be at least some recency bias, meaning that he'll be lower owned than he otherwise would be if he were playing well. There's going to be some percentage of people that convince themselves that Russell Westbrook's having some huge negative effect on James Harden, when really that's not the case. You know, the shots are there. He's averaging 20.3 potential assists per 36 minutes. He's averaging 11.5 rebound chances per game, which, you know, is still behind Westbrook, Tucker, and Capella, but it's still, you know, fine. And the shots are there. So I think that, you know, right now we have Harden projected to be a little bit higher owned than Westbrook on DraftKings, where he's $700 more expensive. I think the gap should be bigger. Like I really like Westbrook, but I like Harden even more.
I am with you. I don't really have any other interest in this Houston team, though. Maybe you do.
No, not really. I think it is worth pointing out that on a per 36 basis, Capella's rebound chances per game are still enormous, but center is a stacked position. We don't know really how many minutes Capella plays, and I don't really feel the need to go there.
Westbrook will do everything he can to siphon off as many opportunities as possible. He won't get them all, but he's going to try. All right. On to the next one here. New Orleans, Golden State. Highest total of the slate. We're still by the way, Embiid's still listed as questionable, but we're still waiting on news here. 236 over under, 120.3 total for the Pels, 115.8 for the Warriors. They're 4.5-point road dogs. Dude, this team is a shell of its old self. It's really looking ugly. That isn't to say that Curry isn't going to have some monster games. He likely will today, but man, they're not a good basketball team.
They are not. The opportunities obviously are still going to be there for Curry. He has like a 32% usage rate so far. I would expect that to go up a little bit. D'Angelo Russell's usage rate is 21%. That has to go up. There's really no question about that. And they're both affordable. But the issue you run into is that Curry is a little bit more expensive on DraftKings than Westbrook is. On FanDuel, he's less expensive, which is nice. He's, you know, in the same ballpark on DraftKings as Harden. So on FanDuel, Curry, I think, is a great option. He's the 5th most expensive point guard behind Westbrook, Lillard, Simmons, and Young. I have him as he's, I think, a better play than that entire group when you factor in price. On DraftKings, it's a little bit tougher because of all the guys around him and multi-position eligibility. His efficiency this year is really low. You would expect it to be lower than normal just because of a lack of good players around him. But even if you go back over the last couple of seasons and you take Cousins and Thompson and Durant off the floor, he still shoots about 10% better than he has so far this season. So there's still a pretty high floor on his shooting, and he should get better. He's still a quality play. It's just that I don't think he's as good a play as guys like Harden.
Okay. Yeah, and he still has a 31% usage rate in 37 minutes he's played alongside D'Angelo Russell this year too.
Right.
So
he's still going to be, you know, the offensive force there.
Exactly. Any thoughts on Russell or Green quickly?
Yeah, I think Russell's underpriced for his upside. The problem I run into is that I am really confident in guys like Brogdon and Gilgeous-Alexander for a little bit less. But I think it is a good spot. The Pelicans play fast. They have struggled defensively. If Drew is out, that really opens the door for Russell because you have to assume that Lonzo is dealing with Curry. So I think Russell's a good play. It's just that, right now the Warriors are trying to figure things out. They may or may not get it figured out, but this has always been a weird fit for Russell too. So it's not like he's not going to have some growing pains here.
Marcus Chris, not a good basketball player. That's your daily disclaimer. Can't block. He can't box out. He can't rebound. He can't play defense. But here we are again, Adam, at a dirt cheap price point, and Kevon Looney being sidelined with a hamstring injury. And by the way, Willie Cauley-Stein out as well. I want to avoid it, but how do you?
Right. I mean, it's the other thing is we haven't seen big minutes from Chris, and he's certainly at risk of losing minutes to, guys like Omari Spellman if he plays poorly or gets in foul trouble. But the flip side of that is if he actually plays well, there's nobody stopping him from playing more minutes. So
Right.
you do have that kind of upside there. Also, I have him at 24 minutes. I think the range is probably like 20 to 28. But it's just a really cheap price tag. He's 3,800 at power forward on FanDuel, 3,200 with power forward eligibility on DraftKings. It's just really, really, really difficult for guys at that salary to actually hurt your lineups when you consider what they allow you to get in. And there's obviously upside at that price. If you're looking to pivot away from him, the natural move is to go to Omari Spellman, who played all but 2 minutes that Chris was not on the floor in their last game.
Yep. That game was completely out of control. Steph Curry played till the end of the third. Marcus Chris came in and played, 5.5 minutes in the fourth, but didn't close the game out in mop-up duty, meaning that as a starter, I would expect this game in the event that it stays close. I have him around 26 minutes today, and I feel all right about that.
Agreed. So we just got news that Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter are limited to 30 minutes today.
And Kevin Huerter's still at 20 minutes.
Yeah, so the Reddish at 30 is just interesting because he had been at 24, so that's kind of high.
Okay.
I mean, he not that he's a great play, but he's 3,500 on DraftKings, and if he's going to play 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes.
I'll say this though: if Matisse Thybulle's on him, he's going to be in for a rough ride.
It's a terrible matchup. It's still not a great option, but he just went from completely off the board for me to
for sure. No. I hear you. Just because he's dirt cheap, 30 minutes at that price point, good things can happen. Probably won't, but they can.
Right.
What do you make of New Orleans? Let's assume Drew Holiday. Do we have any shoot around info on him?
I haven't seen anything. They had shoot around. The beat writers are just refusing to say if he was there.
Yeah, it's stupid. I couldn't find it either. But if he's out, do we go back to Hart now that his price is up? Lonzo Ball, clearly a very strong game, benefited from Holiday being off the floor. And of course, Brandon Ingram, man, this guy looked fantastic. You might think this is blasphemy, but this team has been more fun to watch with the new squad than they were with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's blasphemy. I was really excited for this team. Assuming Zion was going to be there, but even without, it's a lot of guys that I like, individually. So I agree, it's been fun. If Drew is out, it really opens the door for Hart to play big minutes again. He's still affordable. He's got it should be a fast-paced game. In addition to being terrible offensively, Golden State's been terrible defensively this year. So Hart is once again a really strong option. Lonzo would get. You feel a little bit better about Lonzo's minutes as well if Drew is out. And then one big thing that I noticed from the last game without Drew is that Brandon Ingram was playing with the second unit, where he's out there with guys like Alexander Walker and Kenrich Williams and Frank Jackson and Melly. That's not only a ton of usage for Ingram, but a lot of ball handling responsibilities as well, in addition to him getting 15 plus rebound chances per game because he's starting it before. So big minutes for Ingram, a good matchup against Golden State. Obviously, if he's defended by Draymond, that's the toughest defender on the team. But with the pace of this game and the lack of half-court offense, that's not really that concerning.
So who would your top plays be from the Pelicans in the event that Holiday's out? And where would you rank? Why would you prioritize them in terms of the rest of the slate?
Ingram's my number one, then Hart, then Ball. I would say that they're all at their respective price tags. They're all priorities at their positions.
I'm with you. If Holiday plays, what are you doing?
Cutting Hart back because I know he'd been playing big minutes regardless, but it's kind of been a game flow thing where I'm not sure that consistently happens. And then also he's obviously getting less usage whenever Drew's on the floor.
Yeah.
Lonzo, I still would like. I still think he's underpriced. I still think more often than not you get 34 to 36 minutes from Lonzo. And Ingram, I would still like. I would just cut back the usage a little bit and cut down the assist opportunities a little bit.
So they go from love to like.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think Lonzo would be the one that probably maintains most of his value, but it would still hurt him. San Antonio and Portland. What do we have here? A game that shouldn't see. And well, you know what? These teams are a little different than they were before. And of course, Zach Collins got injured yesterday, had that MRI on his shoulder. He's already ruled out. 222.5 total, 114.3 for the Spurs, 108.3 for Portland. Is there anything in this game that you really like?
I think we have to at least talk about the Portland value. Right now we have Mario Hezonja projected as the highest owned guy on DraftKings. I've seen some sites projecting him. What'd you say?
Sorry, I said I think the way it went yesterday, Bazemore actually was getting that closeout run.
Yeah, I think that Hezonja benefits from Collins being out, but I've seen him projected for 29, 30 minutes. I have him at 26, and I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little bit lower. He played a bunch of minutes yesterday, but it really was coincidental with Collins' injury.
It had nothing to do with exactly. Right. It wasn't a result of Collins going down.
Right. He subbed back in at the end of the fourth quarter because Whiteside fouled out, and he's played a bunch in the first half when Collins was still fine. So I think that his minutes are more in question than like Bazemore, who has been ahead of Hezonja in the rotation this year, and there's no real reason to think he falls behind him now. I have Bazemore at 30 minutes. I have Hezonja at 26. I have Tolliver at 16. I have Scal at 18 as the backup center behind Whiteside. So I think that Hezonja is a perfectly fine value option at close to the minimum salary. I think Baze is a fine value option. It's also not a great matchup, and you're getting a lot of ownership there. So in tournaments, I don't think that either of them are a necessity.
Neither do I, but I did mention that earlier that if Hezonja's ownership came up, which it did significantly throughout the day, I would find myself looking at more of someone like Bazemore or just going somewhere else entirely. It was not a result of Collins that Hezonja saw more minutes. And if you looked, it seemed like Terry Stotts really had no problem going small at all. Right. I don't know, how often he's willing to do that against San Antonio, but I think you probably see a lot of Bazemore, who's a good defender and really can play up or down in pace. Anything from this game, though, outside of that, like, do you have any interest in McCollum or Lillard or Aldridge or DeRozan?
Not really in the context of the slate. Obviously you can, kind of cop out and say that Lillard's capable of going for 60, but when you have to actually prioritize guys, I have trouble getting to Lillard or McCollum or anyone else.
Yeah, a couple of these games that we've done just aren't going to have a ton of value in them. Sacramento and Denver. Whenever Nikola Jokic is priced like where he is, then we're going to have to discuss him. 111.5 total for the Nuggets on the road, 5.5 point favorites, 217.5 total. Look, Jokic is one of the best fantasy producers, one of the best offensive big men in basketball. We saw him play 41 minutes last time out, and that was the OT game, right? Yeah. 24 before that, but he was in very early foul trouble, 3 quick fouls in the first half. I mean, the biggest question I have for you, instead of telling me whether or not you like Jokic, where do you put him among Joel Embiid, assuming he's not limited, Andre Drummond, and of course Nikola Jokic on DraftKings, where they're 91, 93, and 96 respectively?
Drummond 1, Jokic 2, Embiid 3.
Okay. So would you put Drummond far ahead of Jokic or very close?
Very close.
Me too. I think in tournaments, though, I do have more interest in Embiid. The minutes are a bit concerning, but we'll see what that ownership looks like if he's ruled in and it comes up. But outside of Jokic, I have a tough time falling in love with anyone from this team. You got guys like Barton and Millsap and Murray. None of them ever really stand out as spectacular plays, even against a pace-up team like the Kings.
Yeah, Denver's kind of an example of how sometimes really good teams can be an issue in DFS because they just have so many guys that are interchangeable that can all take shots from each other. The one constant is Jokic, who led the team in usage, assists, and rebounding percentage last year.
Do you have anything for the Kings? Buddy Hield is pretty cheap on DraftKings, knowing that this season's going to go on, and he's clearly going to be the highest usage player for this team. And especially with Marvin Bagley sidelined for 1+ months, Hield's at least going to get a lot of looks in this offense.
Yeah, he should get a lot of looks. I think that De'Aaron Fox has a really good year as well. He's also affordable, but not a matchup I love against Denver. And for me, Fox is he's in the same price range as Brogdon and Yildiz Alexander. I have those guys a little bit ahead of Fox.
Okay. Anything on Hield or anyone else?
No, they're secondary options for me.
Makes sense to me. Phoenix and Utah. So DeAndre Ayton, I guess we'll see what happens with this suspension. I mean, he's already been suspended, but I know that they're talking about trying to repeal it. Nevertheless, you've got Baines that should start at center. Kaminsky should get minutes, but look, it's a different year, Adam, but this Utah defense has still looked very, very, very good. As a matter of fact, through the first 3 games, they have a 91.9 defensive rating. It's best in the league. Their 98 pace is second lowest in the league. It just makes for a very miserable matchup for fantasy purposes for their opposition.
Yeah, agreed. I don't really have much interest in anything Phoenix here. Not a great defense, not great pricing on guys. Booker's at 8,500. Kaminsky is up to 5,300 on DraftKings. Sarge is at 4,800. Baines is at 5,100. It's just not a very appealing spot for the Phoenix side.
Anything on Utah? Maybe Mike Conley can shoot 1 for 20 for you?
Yeah, I'll say I think that Mitchell and Conley are both fine. The guy that really stands out to me, though, and again, it's a stacked center position, but Rudy Gobert, I think it's a pretty nice bounce back spot for him against that front court of Baines, Kaminsky, Saric. But one thing that really jumped out to me was looking at some other sites that I look at for reference points, having him projected for 32, 33 minutes. He played 38 minutes in the only competitive game Utah's played this year. Then he played he played low minutes and blowouts, but assuming that this game is competitive, I don't see how or why you would project him less than 36 minutes. It's a very favorable matchup for him, should get tons of rebounds. There's a lot of opportunity cost, but if he's going to be under projected across the industry, I like getting there in tournaments.
All right. Anybody else for Utah? For me, it was really Mitchell, just kind of, I don't even want to say standing out, but certainly having value against this Phoenix team. I'm not really worried about blowouts. It is what it is. Plus, it's only a 4.5 point spread. And you know what? I think you got to give some credit to the way Phoenix has played this season. Like they just went and beat the Clippers, right? So maybe Monty Williams is doing something well.
Yeah, and I mean, they unfortunately took Denver to overtime on the road too.
Dude, I know. I like with Sweatikit, I'm always very quiet about things. I never say anything till it's over. I thought you had it locked up to the point where I actually DM'd you and said, you're going to have a huge night. And then it went to overtime and it all unraveled and went to shit.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that much fun. But they've played, reasonably well. The game's in Phoenix. I have no issue, projecting the Utah guys to play their full allotment of minutes.
All right. Hey, Deeper Dive, all one word, is the sign-up code to get 50% off your first month at awesomeo.com. Go to awesomeo.com/join. And check out all of the packages that we have. Awesomeo Plus membership, Express package, only $3.95 a month. And check out all the videos on how to use all of our tools before you dive in. And also take the quick survey when you sign up. It's one question: what type of player you are. We want to know exactly what level of player you are in order to give you not too little, not too much, but exactly the right amount for what you're paying. So we're going to cater it around you. Use the sign-up code Deeper Dive. Get all of our stuff behind the paywall and check out our Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well. That's Deeper Dive, all one word, awesomeo.com/join. All right. Charlotte, LA Clippers. What do you think, man? Clippers in this game, very big favorites. Not surprising against a bad Charlotte team. I mentioned to Josh in today's show, the Charlotte Hornets allowing 69 points in the paint to start the season. They've been beat up by roll men in the pick and roll, and Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams run it better off the bench than anybody else. I definitely, at low ownership, have some interest in Harrell here. What are you doing with the Clippers yourself?
I love Harrell here. We've seen, 37, 32, and 24 minutes from Harrell this season. The 24 was in a blowout. If Charlotte can somehow hang in this game, you should get 30 plus from Harrell. But even if they don't, he comes off the bench, so he's somewhat blowout proof, to where he at least should be able to pay off his dirt cheap price tag. Like 6,400 on DraftKings,
Crazy.
that 7,200 on FanDuel at power forward is just way too cheap. It's really hard for him to fail there, and he certainly can just kind of break things open. So he's my favorite play from this game. It's not particularly close. I think that Kawhi and Lou Williams are fine, but Harrell's the one that I'm prioritizing.
Me too. Really, really like him here today. And I think the minutes are going to be there. And you know what? Blowout or not, it feels like a great spot. Now, I will say this much. When it comes to blowouts, I'm not projecting one. Bench players usually get the brunt of it because they don't start their rotation till, this midway through the third quarter, and then they get pulled early. So unlike starters, they're not getting those extra minutes. But I think Harrell will be fine. Is there anything for Charlotte or anything else here that you like?
I think Charlotte's the least appealing team on this slate. Tough matchup against a really good team. Not very appealing price points on their guys. Not a lot of good players on their team. I said earlier today I thought it was between Cleveland and Charlotte as the least appealing overall team. But Cleveland, you at least have some guys getting big minutes that are actually productive players.
Right on. Final thoughts heading out. Any strategy? Anything else you want to hit on before we turn it over to the live before lock, fellas?
Stars and scrubs, as always, if anyone needs that reminder.
All right, top star, top scrub, go.
Giannis at the top, and then at the bottom, it's kind of wide open for me. Like just a lot of guys rotating through between like guys like Chris, Bazemore.
All right.
Josh
hit
Hart,
us with a thumbs
Josh Hart
up.
if Drew's out.
You enjoy the show, you want to see more, you want to help support us so we can keep doing free content here at youtube.com/awesomeo. Appreciate you guys. Wish you the best of luck. Subscribe, hit that notification bell as well. We'll catch you back here tomorrow on the NBA Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports.
All good. Actually, hold on. Now you're all good. Bingo. We live.
All right. What's up, guys? It should be live. Welcome to the awesomeo.com live before lock show here for Monday's 11-game NBA main slate. Lots of things to hit on over the course of the next hour, including all the late-breaking injury and lineup news that we can possibly provide. I'm Chris Spags, joined as always by my pal. I guess not as always. I don't know why I say that. I'm joined as always on Mondays now, my pal, the Chubster, Josh Engelman. How are you doing, Josh?
I am quite well, actually. Lots of good stuff happening today. Found out that car's almost ready. Won some scratch in NBA yesterday. It's just, I don't know, it's good all around. The wife's out of town, so I can mess around and play a bunch of FIFA and stuff tonight. It's great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be a great slate tonight. And of course, it is going to be even greater if you are playing on superdraft.com right now, the sponsor here of Live Before Lock. They are doing a good job helping us keep the lights on here. You should be checking them out right now because they are offering you $20 free, instant release, not something where you have to wait for it to trickle out. You put a deposit of $100 or more right now at superdraft.com with the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO. You can enter into the world of their DFS games there. They have the exclusive multiplayer game where you don't even have to know salaries. If you are a beginning player, getting that free money up front, and also getting a lot of overlay in your tournaments is going to help you out quite a bit to build bankroll. Let's go to superdraft.com right now. Check them out, support them, and use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day, or not, nope, that's the other one, for your $20 with $100 deposit. I was doing so well just off the top of my head. But I'm happy with SuperDraft. They are the sponsor of the Four Corners. Are you playing on there at all? Because it is I was playing around with the multiplier thing, and it's an interesting little wrinkle. I mean, in DFS, it's so hard to come up with new innovations, but they do actually have an interesting little game there with the multiplier game.
Yeah, I haven't yet. I'm still way behind in the setup of my final workbook. So I'm still just on FanDuel, but I'm certainly going to look into it. I like the idea of trying to balance for the multipliers. That's something that me and my friends used to do in like our own contests. We would do like a draft of college basketball players going into the season, and you got a certain amount of points based on whatever it doesn't really matter, but based on where you drafted them, like which round, each guy had like a specific multiplier that went for it. So you kind of had like, as you went further on, you got a bigger multiplier. So you tried to hold off on like one of those mid-major teams that could make a run, but could also just only get like one game in the NCAA tournament. So it's the kind of stuff that I'm really into.
Yeah, look, it's an easy game to pick up and play. I mean, if Josh and his college buddies could do it, anybody could do it. But go check out superdraft.com right now and check out those tournaments, because, again, there really isn't a lot of edge across the industry. We try our best to give you it as much as we can. But there is an edge for you at superdraft.com right now. So go check them out and use that promo code AWESEMO for $20 free with a $100 deposit. All right, so we got some chalky plays here to talk about up top, as we always try to make sure that we're giving you the best information about the plays that are going to be most relevant when you're building lineups. And it looks like one of the chalk plays of the day is a guy who I know you were down on according to our survey from all the basketball content people, which is done too early for me to ever even take a look at it in the day. But you were on there, not into Marquise Chris for tournaments, but where are you with the field? Because he's looking like the chalk player of the day with no Kevon Looney in there.
Yeah, so it's a little site dependent. I obviously understand that he's 3,200 on DraftKings, right? $3,200 guy on DK that has minutes coming to him in a track meet game is appealing. I think he's going a little over-owned for tournaments. I understand the appeal more so for cash. I'm gonna have a little bit, but on FanDuel, he's 3,800 at a power forward spot where I just greatly prefer his teammate, Draymond Green. So I don't really get the sense that I'm going to have a ton of Marquise Chris on FanDuel.
Okay. I mean, I could see that equation there in FanDuel. It is more of a 1-to-1 thing. And I think for DraftKings, like I know I have a good amount of Omari Spellman because he is really going to be the guy who would benefit if Chris failed or if he got into foul trouble or he just does boneheaded Marquise Chris things as he's kind of bound to do. But yeah, I'm in on Marquise Chris on DraftKings. I think he opens up a lot of things. I don't think he's as species of a value play as some of the other guys we've had, like Nemanja Bjelica. Another guy we'll talk about on Portland, people going to Mario Hezonja. I feel like those plays are a little flimsier than Chris. He's always been a good per minute player. He's in a pace-up matchup going against New Orleans. Golden State can't play defense either, so they are going to have to score a bit. They're going to have to find some ways to get scoring from somewhere. So I feel like on DraftKings, I really do like Chris quite a bit, and not because his last name is my first name.
I assumed that was the only reason that you like him.
That's why I play most guys. Yeah, I'm like, oh, his name sounds like mine. Cool, that wins.
Yeah, so that's the reason, right?
Yeah, that's the only reason why. No, like he's the best value play, I think, using either my projections from last year or from this year. And Osmo has him. Osmo had him as one of his favorite cash game plays today. For cash, I think for sure on DraftKings we're putting him in there. But he does enough of everything where I feel like in a pace-up spot against a New Orleans team really doesn't have anybody too intimidating inside. Fouls are always a risk for him, but I think that's where I am with it. But on FanDuel, I get getting away from him though.
Yeah, the cash aspect of it I think is most essential.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's getting the value though, and I think that's sort of where I wanted to go with him. But tell me your thoughts on Hezonja, because his ownership has also soared a bit on DK. Right behind him, Kent Bazemore, the guy who seems like he would benefit or be more likely to benefit from at least a minutes basis. His ownership also up a bit, at least at small forward, but still not as chalky as Hezonja is. Where are you landing with him, and do you find him to be playable? Because even with, I think a generous projection, to me, he just kind of clears 5x, and I don't really see why people would want to be there as a chalk play.
I have a lot more. I expect to have a lot more Hezonja. Caveat in all of this: Kent Bazemore is 5,300 on FanDuel, 3,800 on DraftKings. So Kent Bazemore just really isn't a part of the conversation. Hezonja is $100 above the minimum at position that is just notoriously awful. So if I can ever get a guy that, I've got Hazonia in for 26 minutes right now. I think Alex has something comparable to that. That's all that I need to know really for for small forward and for his price on FanDuel specifically. On DraftKings, I think it's probably easier to get away from Hazonia. I would probably feel a little bit more comfortable going to Kent Bazemore than Hazonia. I think the extra $500 is probably worth it in that regard.
For me, I happen to land on it. And actually, tell me your thoughts on this, because we talked about it the last time that we did a show together, talking about Josh Hart, a guy who ended up getting those minutes again in that spot. Does seem more inclined to get the minutes of Drew Holiday's out. He is still questionable, at least the last that I saw. So Hart is a guy who I like to pay up for instead of Hazonia, because I think 1,600 difference, it's not great, but it does still open up enough for me where I think Hart, I think he's getting the minutes in this game going against the Golden State team who defensively is looking extremely bad. And, you would expect that to level out a little bit, but a 122 defensive efficiency so far. So in 100 possessions, they're giving up a lot of points, more than any team gave up last year. I think to me, Hart's a really strong play at his price point, and I would rather pay up to get that safety for him. But how are you feeling about Hart, I guess, as a potential pivot to these guys on DK in particular?
One thing I want to know, if I said 5,800 for Bazemore on FanDuel, I'm wrong. It was 5,300, but the point is sort of still the same. Just point of clarification if you're not actually watching me and you just hear me. I don't get the sense that I'm going to have any Josh Hart. I'm also projecting Drew Holiday in. So I don't there's nothing I can really do. I'm not interested in Josh Hart if Drew Holiday is in the game. I don't think we're going to know that one way or the other. So it's a little scary in that regard. If Drew Holiday ends up out, then I think $4,800 Josh Hart is very appealing on DraftKings.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a bit of a leap of faith right now. And unfortunately for us, you're doing them as we go. For me, I'm doing most of my lineups before we do the show because I just can't process both with my brain functionality. But it still seems like a spot to me where I think going in, I'm willing to bet that Hart gets the minutes here. I just feel like matchup wise too, to me, I would think that he's kind of a guy you want to have on the court going against Golden State, going against some guys around his height where his defense should be available. Also, given how Golden State's been shooting, I think he'll have some rebounding opportunities. So I'm a little more comfortable with Josh Hart today than it seems like you are, but I agree that having Drew out would make him, I think, not a lock play, but a guy I'd want a substantial amount of relative to the field.
Yeah, I'm looking a lot more at Ingram and Lonzo in this game than anything else. And again, that is with Drew, assuming Drew is in. Ingram is, without question, whether Drew is in or not, and if he ends up being out, love him even more. 13.6 on FantasyDraft in particular is one of the more appealing prices on the slate.
One other guy we should hit on real fast. We did talk about him briefly vis-a-vis Marquise Chris, but Omari Spellman also projected to have some ownership on DK. Again, pretty close to the minimum price. Also been really good per minute this year. Definitely due for some regression in terms of the blocks and steals he's had, but still a guy who overall in his limited career has been pretty good. And he's in the spot here with the Golden State team who needs offense and needs defense and needs really anything that a guy like him can provide. Are you getting any Spellman on FanDuel, or is he just not on the radar?
Very, very minimal if I am. He came, I'm in the middle of, actually my crunch just finished, so I can tell you. He came up in 7% of the 1,000 lineups I have, so, he can be up to 10% when I export this.
Okay. Yeah. So all right. So that's different there. I'm pretty heavy on Spellman. It turns out with our ownership, at least the most recent ownership update, I'm just about 10% above where we are. We have him just under 20%. And again, go to awesome.com/join and use the promo code live before lock. You want to get half off your first month of Awesome Plus. And of course, this year it is actually Awesome's projections running out there. So these are the ones that he is running to actually try to win all the tournaments that you're trying to win. So go check those out. That is the best data you can possibly find at awesome.com/join. Use that promo code live before lock for half off your first month.
We got an ownership update 7 seconds ago.
Oh, all right. Let's see if that changed anything. I feel like
D'Angelo Russell is the chalk. That's going to go real well for me.
Are you with the field on D'Angelo Russell?
Oh, no, I'm going to have twice as much as that.
Man, what a world where, look, it's all situation. I get it. But yeah. A staunch D'Angelo hater. Now you have to play him twice the field.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
Marquise Chris now almost at 50% projected ownership on DK. Hazonia now number 2 with almost 30%. I would rather have the Chris at 50% than the Hazonia at 29, I think, personally.
Chris at 50%, Hazonia at what?
29.
I'd rather have Hazonia.
Really, man.
Yeah.
I like Hazonia. I just don't think the Portland team is a spot for him to get the kind of run that he needs to get. Like compared to like him in New York last year, I don't know. I just don't see the upside for him. But I could be wrong. It's happened a couple times this year already.
I'm a really big non-believer in Marquise Chris. There's a reason he's on his third team and that nobody is picking up options and stuff for him. He is getting opportunity here. That's the most important piece.
Yes.
But he is wildly untalented.
Is he wildly untalented? He can block. He runs the court well. He's not afraid to shoot a three.
Riddle me this. Why is he not still on the Suns then?
Well, the Suns cut bait with a lot of guys. They kind of have like a 3-year window of these guys, and they're like, all right, you're not doing enough for us, so you're done. They got rid of Bender too, and not that he's playing right now because he's banged up. But
look, if the Golden State Warriors weren't hard capped from the Durant move, Marquise Chris would be in the G League somewhere, and Alfonso McKinney would still be on this team. He basically made this team because he was cheaper, and they don't have the ability to pay anybody.
Well, I agree with that, but I think the reason they're taking the flyer on him is because he does have that talent. He's just like he's not, I think, known to be a well-liked dude. I think he's, he regularly gets into skirmishes on the court and stuff. He's not as good of a rebounder as he should be. He's not as high of an effort player, but on a team that just needs something and also, getting a pretty generous Vegas total in a pace-up spot or a high-paced game overall. Like, I don't think his ability to stick with a team really matters if he's going to get 25 to 30 minutes a run.
Right. This is an opportunity play for today only. Somebody said he's Max Muncy to Josh. This isn't even remotely close to the same thing.
That's it. No.
Marquise Chris is more likely to be out of the league before this year ends. So
yeah, okay. I agree with that. I don't think that. Yeah, I don't agree with the Max Muncy analogy. I do like that as a concept though. But no, he's not that dude. I think like the Max Muncy analogy probably applies more to like Malcolm Brogdon. I think this year would be probably a more relevant comparison.
I would have said D'Angelo Russell, but Muncy was just like old too. He was like 27 or something last year when it all started, whereas Russell's like 23 or something.
Yeah, Russell's still young. Yeah. I think it's like, I guess that all the guys you compare it to in the NBA this year are kind of the younger guys, but it's just somebody taking a gigantic leap that to you didn't make sense based upon the things that you look at for a longer term sample size. But I think for basketball, it's just different. You just want a talented guy who's going to get minutes, and the hope is that he's not maybe going to be long for the world overall. But as a value play today, going against New Orleans, I think Marquise Chris, you're good for me for one day, if nothing else.
And I have a stupid amount of Dwayne Dedmon.
So I like that play, and I got him too because of Alex's projections. I've been merging mine with his to try to get some stuff because I don't have everything set up perfectly. We've talked about this off camera, but to the people out there, I don't have everything perfectly set up with my last year projections and this year's projections yet because we're so busy here scattershot with all the content we're doing. So I've been using Alex's to try to kind of weight mine and figure out where they should be. His are big on Dedmon, and I actually get it. I mean, I get it. We've been big on Dedmon, I think, overall. He hasn't come through yet, but like, how does he not play big minutes today going against Jokic? Like, I don't think Rashawn Holmes matches up with him nearly as well.
I expect big things, but I've been jamming him down into my own lineups every time that. Well, I don't know since Bagley got hurt.
Yeah, me too.
I have like a really uncomfortable amount of him right now.
I'm with you on it. I think he's an interesting play at center. Another guy to get some value in there if you are trying to save money without going all the way down to the Chris Hazonia tier. But how uncomfortable are we feeling with our Dedmon exposure for you?
Okay, so what's your guess? How much do you think I have?
Knowing your general risk profile, I'd say 65.
Ooh, you got the right numbers. 56.
56?
Yeah.
Okay. That was my dyslexia.
Drew Holiday out. So
that Josh Hart much more appealing now.
Suck a D.
Okay. Yeah. So I like Josh Hart quite a bit. I'm glad that we did this riff already, but I think Josh Hart's now a very strong play and a nice value pivot where you're not paying all the way down. You're not getting in that tier, but Hart's been great. I like Hart quite a bit.
This is not what I wanted to do right now, but this is the first time that I've had to make like a really big on the fly move this year. It's been a while.
How are you? I mean, do you have a sense from just your projections and how the Holiday thing comes out, how that affects your interest in Hart? Because we talked a little bit about mine. I was locked in regardless, so I'm good on my Hart exposure. But how does he change things now that knows no Holiday? How does everything change?
I'm not entirely sure, but it's kind of an easy fix since Holiday didn't play in the last game. So like updating minutes is really not all that big of a task.
Yeah. I mean, I think he certainly makes Ball a lot more interesting, secures his role a bit. Brandon Ingram could see some tougher defense today with Draymond being out there. I think that's just a bit of a risk that maybe he gets him on him, but I still really like what I'm seeing from Ingram. Ingram to me looks like a guy who's taking the leap this year, at least until Zion gets back out there.
He's so good.
Yeah, I like those 3 points.
At least.
Yeah, and he's rebounding too. I mean, he's not ever probably going to be a plus defender. I think maybe he can be a better help defender than he already has been. But I think on DK for my lineups, I already kind of had this construction in there, but Ball, Hart, Ingram in there, I think are 3 guys I want to have in a good amount of lineups. And they can be together too. I don't have an issue with that.
Let's see. Man, I still have 14 more minutes to give out. Who the hell are they going to go to?
Moses Guthrie in the premium Slack saying Chris is a specimen, quote unquote, with loads of athleticism. He's not a good NBA player. Guys like that will get many opportunities because coaches think that they can change them. Yeah, I think that and the necessity for Golden State are 2 reasons why I'm comfortable with the Marquise Chris chalk for now, and why I'll be very sad when it blows up in my face later, inevitably.
Josh Hart. Yeah, I mean, I can't go much higher than that.
All right. Well, let me know how you're shaking out there. Let's keep looking for any questions here of any relevance.
I'm just gonna let that fly right now. I think that should be okay. So Josh Hart's looking pretty tasty.
I'm glad. I like how that changed so fast. I mean, granted, it was an integral part here. No, Drew.
I'm not gonna have a ton. I prefer CJ McCollum at 6,200 to Josh Hart. But other than that, I don't know. Josh Richardson at 5,800 is also right there. Let me take a look and see what Josh Hart's usage and stuff has been.
Let's see. For what I have him at, Josh Hart's had a 20% usage rate, 7% rebound rate, which does seem a bit high for a guard. Shooting sustainably for the most part, at least from shooting 49% from the floor. So that's a little high, and 41% from 3. So that seems okay.
Oh, come on, Wowie. You got for me.
Yeah, Josh Hart definitely not due for the positive regression. Let's say James Harden is with his 24% from the floor and like 10% from deep.
For real. Okay, there we go. Got it. Obviously not huge samples here. Josh Hart, 21% usage with Drew Holiday off the floor. Let's go ahead and bump that to 19 all the day. I have a feeling that I'm going to be getting a lot of Josh Hart in the next couple minutes, so
I would hope so for your sake.
Yeah, something like that. Lonzo, 15. I'm good to like keep talking. This is
okay.
This is really like low effort shit right now.
Okay, I thought you were gonna come back with something like here's where I'm.
Oh no, I'm gonna end up getting a lot of Josh Hart. You can be sure of that.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the other chalk plays then that are I guess the most relevant to people. James Harden seems like the most relevant one on DraftKings. Is he priced down kind of comparably on FanDuel? I actually didn't double check that.
He's not cheap. I got a lot of him earlier. He's 11-1.
Derek Favors also out today.
Whoa.
Huh. Okay. So that definitely changes things.
Well, he's barely been playing. That's the weird part. I had him in for 20 minutes. Jahlil Okafor, though, is about to really mess things up at center.
Yeah, Okafor, and then, I mean, Melly, I think, has been also a direct backup at times, so he should get a little bit of a boost there.
Yeah. Okafor.
Also, I know you use Basketball Reference for your data. How annoying is that they're using European characters for all the European players?
I don't want to have this conversation on stream right now, or Tom's going to have to message us. There's going to be a lot of swears. It has caused and is causing me major issues to start. I've been scraping that site for ages, and that first import that first day caused like problems that I don't want to talk about. It's really aggravating. I don't know why they're doing it. It's super irritating. I've had to jump through a ton of hoops to correct this problem. We don't need accent characters on summary data. I assume they're doing it just for the reasons that I expect, because people scrape that table. But jerks, man, jerks. Basketball. I'll pay for you to take them out. I'd happily subscribe to the site in some way.
I think they're doing it because of the cultural acknowledgement that you have to respect that the names are different and that you have to, because it's all the Eastern European players where they all randomly now. I mean, they have the correct ones, like they have the ones that you're supposed to have.
Yeah,
But,
Okafor starting.
Yeah, I just saw that alert too. So, man, that's going to change the minutes projections. By the way, again, the minutes projections at Osmo.com come from Osmo himself, and you can get that on the stat lines page on our projections page, which I was helpfully informed of by one of our founders earlier, or last week rather. So go check those out if you need minutes, like I'm going to shortly, because I assume Okafor now is going to take a major jump in every projection.
Yeah, he is.
Man.
All right, so I have like generic info right now. Okafor 3,600 on FanDuel. I'm gonna have him more than I had Dwayne Dedmon.
Okay.
So, or like I can potentially have him more than I have Dwayne Dedmon. He's a punt center and he's gonna start. Don't sleep on Melly though. They don't have a lot of options at the 5, so anything goes wrong for Okafor, I think that Nicolo Melli is gonna play a lot of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, just matchup wise, given that both teams are playing at a fairly high pace and Melli can stretch the floor and do some stuff, and frankly, Golden State doesn't really have a big of note on the other side. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see Okafor flayed off the floor pretty fast for Melli.
I don't think that they're in any position to be playing anybody off the floor. I don't think that they're lucky that this Golden State team isn't very good. I think they'll be okay with the Omari Spellmans and Marquise Chris's of the world. It's not like, I mean, nobody can guard Draymond as like a facilitator. You're not really worried about him scoring.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And Okafor honestly has shown some more mobility, where I think I still kind of imagine him in my head occasionally as the Philly version of himself, where he's not the most fleet-footed, but he actually has shown an ability in some pace-up spots before to get up and down the floor and have value. But I do think Melli does kind of loom big in this spot, because Melli seems like from a basketball standpoint, seems like a much better matchup than Okafor would be.
I'll say this much. I think Steph Curry was probably my favorite player on the slate before this happened. That is only significantly higher now that Drew Holiday and Derek Favors aren't on the floor. Drew Holiday, fantastic defensively. Derek Favors, not going to play a ton of minutes, but still probably their best defensive big man. Just changes the scope of the team a lot.
Yep. All right. That seems fair. Obviously, we'll keep you guys updated as the ownership projections and all that stuff comes through, because there's going to be some ripple effects with everything. But we should talk about some of the other higher owned guys. Again, James Harden, let's circle back there. James Harden, well priced on DK, very due for some sort of positive regression with his shot. Ownership seems like it's come up to him at a reasonable level, 25%. I'm above that because I just really find him to be, in fact, he's had a 50-point floor for the most part without shooting well or even shooting vaguely competently. I think Harden's a very strong play today. I guess on FanDuel, it's a different equation, but where would you shake out with Harden?
On that previous crunch, I could reference back to the data that I had. It's not going to be particularly relevant any longer. I had 34%, which is actually a lot lower than I was expecting. That is going to move higher now that I can spend more money on Dwayne Dedmon and Jahlil Okafor. I'll have more money to go around. So I would expect to get even more James Harden than before.
Okay. Let's go through some of these other chalk plays, kind of just touch where we are on them. Andre Drummond can also be very popular, been playing well without Blake Griffin in there. That's always been the case for him going back to last year. Playing against Indiana, had a really good game against them earlier in the year, or I guess last week. Kind of the spot that you'd expect him to be in there playing well. Where are you with Drummond, given the fact that he is a center? I mean, he and Jokic both pretty well priced given what we know of their upside.
I liked him a lot, and I like him a lot. I'm finding myself, at least on FanDuel, going to have trouble getting to a lot of him, which feels like a mistake. I feel like if everybody is going to the value guys at center, then I should do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get the sense that I'm going to be able to pull that off in its entirety. Trying to wait to see where Alex drops Okafor's minutes, because that's going to be a really big thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's going to be at least getting that Favors workload, one would think, and that's
updated 2 minutes ago, so I'll know immediately when this updates if that includes Okafor. Okafor projected for 25, so it fucking certainly does. Stat line, Okafor minutes, 22. Perfect. I just dropped mine to 22 right before that, so spot on. He gave Melli 20, Same Z's here. That'll work. 28 to Kenrich Williams. I can safely bump that up 1 or 2 more. I love it. Thanks, boss.
So I guess how do these guys then overall look to you relative to their new situations? Because Melly's a guy, at that price point, I think at 20 minutes, that seems like that's a little bit of a tough projection to make or a tough to land on him as a play. But I guess which of these guys looks the most appealing? Is it still Okafor?
Yeah, Okafor by a mile, and then Josh Hart also very, very different now. But Okafor is the clear best value out of all of them.
Okay. And also somebody asked, it is officially Josh Hart starting. So Okafor starting for Derek Favors, Josh Hart starting for Drew Holiday. And that is how that will go.
That Okafor news really changes the Marquise Chris equation too in GPPs. Marquise Chris is going to take a very large drop in ownership. And Omari Spellman should be off of most people's radar now.
Okay. People in the YouTube chat asking, is Embiid playing or sitting? We do not have that answer yet, but we'll let you know as soon as any sort of alert on that comes through. I think the expectation is that'll play, but no confirmation on that yet. So we'll find out.
200-yard picks so I can get screwed over. Oh, wrong show.
I got there yesterday, so that's what matters.
I thought I was going to get there.
Yeah, if you missed the NFL live before lock yesterday,
Michael Thomas got there.
Josh had Chris Carson and what was it, 83 yards and a touchdown in the third quarter?
He had 90 and he finished with 90 and a touch. No catches, none, not one.
Who needs catches in that game? They were ahead the whole time. They didn't want to embarrass Dan Quinn, their former DC.
I needed 10 yards.
Yeah, that is a fun game. That game did not work out well for you. Worked out well for me. All right. So some of the other chalk plays hit on. Giannis, going to look great on every site. Both games over 70 fantasy points so far. A bit of a pace down spot against Cleveland. Cleveland has kind of slogged it out for the most part, but Giannis is Giannis. Where are you shaking out with him?
I don't get the sense that I'm going to have a lot. But now with this increased value, I could see myself having like a stupid amount of Giannis. This is really throwing everything off. Like this is creating value that I didn't have before at a lot of value at 2 separate positions now. So it's really changing the structure of everything that I had. He's Giannis. That game could be over at halftime, but he probably has a triple-double if it is.
Yeah, that's very much true. And Cleveland has shown an ability, to rebound well and to keep guys off the boards. And again, a very slow pace that they're playing at as well. Their defense has shown improvement, a little bit of improvement this year relative to last year's stats as well, for whatever that's worth. I guess that's probably just the effect of having Love and Thompson in there. But I have a lot of lineups with Giannis and Harden on DraftKings, and I think that's a construction that I like because there's enough value to get there and also enough mid-price guys to get there. I like Giannis a lot in DK.
What does Alex have for Kenrich Williams? Because he just popped up a lot, and I'm nervous. 22.9. Giving out the goods on stream. I have them slightly too high there.
Yeah, this is helpful for the people out there because I can see how you try to solve these problems as we go, and it's not always the easiest to figure them out.
But yeah, I do want to say this. Kenrich Williams was significantly better at the 4 last year than he was when he was at the 3. And they moved him towards the 3 later in the season, but he was playing a lot more at the 4 early. He just had a lot more rebounding opportunities. He saw a big-time swing in his rebounding rate between when he was playing at the 3 and when he was playing at the 4. I would expect him to get more minutes at the 4 now because of this. And I think that is an even bigger benefit for him that I don't think a lot of people will talk about in the next 27 minutes.
That seems fair. Apparently ownership has been updated for us. Let's see that.
Got a lot of shit to open up now.
Yeah. If you want that updated ownership. Oh boy. Apparently Kenrich Williams now the number 2 projected owned.
Yeah. As expected.
Huh. Okay.
Lonzo chalk on FanDuel, by the way.
Huh. Boy, these are some very big last minute changes here. So, if you are going anywhere besides New Orleans, apparently you will be instantly very contrarian.
You have an incredible reason to get away from Marquise Chris now, everybody.
Yeah. Marquise Chris's ownership has come down on DK. They're not too much, but down under the near 50% it was at the start of the show. So whatever that's worth for all the folks out there.
My memory is garbage. Oh, we have a ton of time. It's only 6:30, 26 minutes. This is fun. I keep thinking but we still need to get the Astros lineup. But like once you have information, you just have it.
Yeah, that is helpful. These injuries coming out now, definitely appreciative of the NBA for doing that for us. Let's go through some of the other chalk plays just so we can kind of close the loop on them as we can. Russell Westbrook playing out of his mind so far, playing extremely efficiently, has on a fantasy perspective looked better than James Harden, but we talked about how the fact that James Harden's just going to shoot better. He's not going to be shooting 25% for the rest of the year. I think Russell is a strong enough play. I don't know how you make that work. I don't know if you have a thought on them. I don't mind playing them together because I do think they stagger minutes enough. And also Houston playing at the fastest pace in the league so far. And that seems like that's largely due to Westbrook's addition. So I don't mind Westbrook, but how are you feeling about him? Maybe due for some regression.
I greatly prefer Harden. I would have a really difficult time playing them together.
Real? Any particular reason why?
It's paying 19.5 for two guys from the same team is a really scary proposition. You need that game to go a very specific way. I would almost certainly be bringing Chris Paul back in that stack. For Harden and Russ to both provide value, that game needs to be very close.
Well, yeah, I would be more inclined to run it back with Shea because, Adam talked about him at some length on a deeper dive, but I do think Shea's usage rate is pretty appealing. I mean, Chris Paul seems like he's due to be a little bit more involved than he has been over the last two games, but I think Shea's a pretty interesting play. He's one of the guys who I'm kind of buying into a little bit more on a projection basis. Him, Malcolm Brogdon, Derrick Rose, I would have bought into even off his Minnesota data, but I think still this year, another guy I'm buying into a lot. I don't know. Like, I guess, you have a preference towards Paul between Paul and Shea?
I had them here in front of me. 0.8. No, I don't. It's a literal coin flip for them. I would just rather not have Westbrook in that scenario and go to Curry.
Okay. I like Curry too. And I know Curry you did have as one of your better tournament plays on our survey thing that you did today again.
Let me be more specific. If I had a lineup with Harden and Westbrook, I would want to just switch Westbrook to Curry. I do like Russell Westbrook on DraftKings as much as I like Steph Curry. Curry is much more of a FanDuel play for me today than he is on DraftKings. But that point was just to be made based on like a Harden Westbrook combo. It's just really easy to spend another $100 and not have to worry about that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's see. Anybody else we should be hitting on? I mean, the Kenrich Williams thing, I guess you talked about. You're on pace or on the same page with that ownership. Any other particularly chalky plays? Montrezl Harrell's ownership has come down enough where he's not too noteworthy. RJ Barrett, is he somebody you're landing on at all, given that he has been really involved and it seems like still getting the usage where that's kind of already flowed away from Marcus Morris and a couple of the more veteran players?
I don't have any interest in RJ Barrett.
Okay. I don't either, but I thought maybe you might.
Where the hell did Kenrich Williams go? Did I accidentally type over a number that was really relevant?
I hope you didn't.
Do me both.
All right.
Can't find him anywhere in here.
Let's go to the chat and see if anybody's got anything good. Okafor, a very good play now. Yes, that seems fair. Trey Young or Lillard, two guys who are not getting much ownership love right now, or at least not anywhere near some of the guys we talked about already. Trey Young playing out of his mind, but going into a matchup with the Philly team whose defense has really looked stellar so far. I would favor Lillard out of that duo, but are you landing on any Trey Young given the fact that he has gone nuts and everything so far?
I'm not landing on Trey Young just because of Curry. Curry is $200 cheaper than Trey Young on FanDuel. I would prefer, and I'm also just not that high on Trey Young, generally speaking. I would prefer Trey Young to Damian Lillard, though.
Okay, interesting. I would favor Lillard because I just think it's going to be a much more beneficial matchup for Lillard than it will be for Trey. I mean, I don't think we've seen very much from San Antonio this year overall. And I think, Trey going against the Philly team, they're playing at a slower pace. They are also defending really well. Actually, I guess they are playing at a decent pace. They're actually defending so well that it jumps out. I don't know. I don't think Philly's a great matchup to target against right now, personally, but I get the contrarian wanting to go to Trey, but that hot hand's going to run out fast.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to have much of either. So I definitely won't have Lillard, or at least I haven't for most of the day.
Are you landing on any Derrick Rose, given that Reggie Jackson is going to be out again?
That's a good question. I haven't gone back to look. I did have to juke his stats a little bit earlier. I will not have him on FanDuel at 6,500. I probably wouldn't have him on DK either. That was pretty controversial this morning, but oh well.
Yeah, I would say that I do like I like Derrick Rose quite a bit. I think he's been really good. For the last year and change. I think the spot for him is there's been usage to go around for him. I mean, he's got a 37% usage rate almost on the year. Even if Tim Frazier picks up the nominal start again, I would say that Derrick Rose is going to be playing most of those minutes as long as he stays healthy. And I kind of like the spot. I actually think it's a little interesting game stack with Indiana and Detroit. Not a great pace game, but I think you have guys here, Brogdon, a little bit of a value relative to what he's performed at this year, and Derrick Rose fairly cheap. Drummond still probably underpriced for what he should be. I think there's some ways to get there and maybe have a little less ownership on them than you would have otherwise now.
There was a quote in our Slack earlier from somebody with the Pistons where they were talking about how Rose just like physically cannot be on the court for like monster minutes, that they would love to play him more, but like he can't physically handle it. So I think that limits him a bit in GPPs, because I don't think that there's any chance for him to go out and play like 36 minutes if things are going really well. I think that he is relatively limited for the amount of time that he can be on the floor, which just inherently makes him a little bit more difficult to play in a GPP because it kind of lops off his right tail.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, look, I think the thing that jumps out, so it's 3 games so far in the regular season. Also, the starting lineup for Detroit just came out. It is officially Tim Frazier starting again, not Derrick Rose. So another value-ish option if you do want to go there, even though he did not play terribly well in that first start for Reggie Jackson. Let's see. Yeah, it's possible that Derrick Rose will see more minutes in the future. Rose is averaging 26.3 minutes so far. He had a usage rate of 44% in that last game, 43% actually in that last game, 38% the game before that. He's getting whatever he wants shot wise. I think that's enough. Yeah,
I'm not worried about like his play on the court or any sort of the matchup. I'm just worried about him in GPPs being able to be out there for like long stretches of time.
Alex Seiss in the premium Slack, which of course you get with that Awesemo Plus membership. So go to awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code live before lock right now for half off your first month. Asking, in your opinion, are Okafor, Tim Frazier, or Dedmon cash viable on FanDuel? I think the first two more so, but what do you think?
Okafor, Dedmon, and who?
Tim Frazier.
Okafor and Dedmon are. I haven't.
Yeah, Frazier probably not going to get the ownership at this point.
I'd be very surprised if I was trying to get Tim Frazier in. I wouldn't go to Tim Frazier in that case. It'd be Lonzo and somebody else.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
For me, Lonzo and Curry, but that's neither here nor there. Not Tim Frazier in a cash game.
All right. Let's see.
All right.
Yeah, Kennard is also starting. I think I implied that. But yeah, Luke Kennard is officially starting for Detroit. So he is starting alongside Tim Frazier. Derrick Rose off the bench. Let's see. Love Ingram cash. That's a thought. Oh, there's a Derrick Rose quote. I just wish we had more time to play him. I'm sitting there watching the clock. Medically, he can't. I would love to play him 40 minutes, but he just can't do it. He stirs the drink. He makes things happen. No disrespect to the guys who start, but we're just kind of buying minutes for him to get in there. That's a pretty big cosign there.
Right. Like, I like him and stuff, but if Dwayne Casey could play him more, I think you would play him more. And I just think that he's a little hamstrung. So you just know that he has to get it all in a very specific amount of time. He can do that. Just makes your margin of error really tight.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I wouldn't hate playing Derrick Rose in cash either, just because, for the reasons that you mentioned, he's going to have some ownership on him. He does have a decent floor. Maybe he doesn't have the GPP ceiling. I still think he has it, but I think he's probably a pretty safe play in cash. So he'd be a guy who I would also, I think is a strong one to get in there. Let's see. Anybody else you're getting who we haven't hit on who's particularly unique that you think the people should be aware of? I mean, it seems like you're very big on Steph Curry. Yeah. Usage been there for him. He's had basically James Harden usage, but anybody else besides him?
I'll just read off every piece of ownership that I can see off of this crunch while it still runs. Okafor, this is just the players in order from most to least. Okafor, Draymond, Lonzo, Josh Hart, Curry, Russell, Ingram, TJ Warren, Miles Bridges, CJ McCollum, Kenrich Williams, Dedmon, Harden, George Hill.
Oh, George Hill. Interesting. The chalk of the very early morning for us.
Yeah.
George Hill.
I got yelled at for that one, and then he came out as chalk on DraftKings, and it was like, that's just where we stand for 9 o'clock in the morning, guys.
Where are you landing on Shea? I know we talked about him briefly, but Dante asking Shea Gilgeous-Alexander thoughts for FanDuel. How are you feeling about him on that price or that site rather?
7,900 is a pretty big ticket for him. I'm a fan of his in general. I'd be more likely to get him for the 7K spot on DraftKings, but he is not somebody that's really on my radar tonight.
Are Russell and Curry viable to you in the same lineup on FanDuel for our guy Pedrito PR?
They are.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
They only have like 2.5 legitimate offensive players on that team.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
If like for one of them can't have a really like, I'd be very surprised if one of them had an atrocious game and they won. Like they don't have enough else. I think they're actually like oddly appealing together to stay in games.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, yeah, because you're assuming they're both getting their full rotations there, and they both kind of have to be successful in order to get their full rotations. Yeah, that's actually
like nobody's taking their minutes, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe I don't even know who their guards are.
They're non-NBA players. They're running out a bunch of guys that would not be in the league other than this specific opportunity for, oddly enough, you know, the best team over the past 5 years.
I'm surprised they don't play Damian Lee more. He's always been a good guy when he actually gets minutes. I don't know if he's actually a good real life player. From fantasy perspective, he's not a bad player at all.
I think he's pretty much just on the team because he's related to Curry now.
Yeah, that's what it seems like a little nepotism, but he played well in the preseason. Like he actually had a couple monster games when he got usage.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let you know now that those preseason stats aren't all that viable.
I know. Well, they're I don't know. They're a little more viable now when you're playing against actual guys, which you did actually play against actual guys a few of those games of the preseason. But people in the YouTube chat also asking, while we are talking about the other guys on Golden State, Eric Pascal, another value play on a 2019 or 2019 projection basis is probably going to look okay to some folks. Is he somebody you would have any of? Because I would much prefer, obviously, Chris or Spellman.
No, I do not have any Eric Pascal.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed with you on that. Let's see. This fucking dog. Let's see. Curry or Joker for fantasy draft? Is that something that you would have an opinion on?
I can. Let me hop here. Curry is going to be already on there. Curry is 18, 8 and 23. Denver 17 to 8 and 19. Probably Jokic.
Okay. And would it also be the same for you and DK? Because somebody else, Bank Swish Maniac, asking for DK, GPP, Jokic, or Curry. Who would you want to play?
Curry by like a lot.
Okay. A little more risk with Curry, just that they get dusted again. I think a little bit.
I love Curry.
All right.
I mean, the Pelicans just scratched Drew Holiday and Derek Favors. The line on that game now is 2.5. So we should not be projecting any sort of blowout whatsoever.
No, that's fair. Yeah, okay. I just feel like Jokic is a little bit safer just because of what we know with him and his opportunity. But for a GPP, I think the upside for Curry would be higher. But I would favor Jokic just because I think there's some bad things with Golden State that worry me a little bit.
Like 9 different people for the Nuggets can play well, and Jokic can just have like one of those games where he takes 4 shots, but he has 12 assists.
No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, one of these games, Curry's going to shoot like 23s this season, and things are just going to go crazy if they fall. I've been surprised he hasn't really shown that upside yet because he's shooting fairly well. Yeah, but he's shooting fairly well. He hasn't shot more than 20 times in a game, really. He's 4 for 20 from 3. He's not shooting fairly well.
All right. I still would favor Jokic personally, but I get your Curry love.
I mean, it's not. Look, we're talking like barely bigger than a coin flip.
Do you have any Rodney Hood, by the way, since we did talk about the Portland Wings? People still trying to decipher that one, even though the value is going elsewhere. Any Rodney Hood for you as a pivot to the ownership for Bazemore and for Azonia?
Not that I remember seeing.
Okay. Yeah, I don't agree. Oh, Curry doesn't hit the 3-pointers on the road. Fade. Okay, that's not the logic either.
Oy vey.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how competitive today is, and I think he'll be fine from 3 on the road or at home.
Yeah, you'd be surprised to know that I'm not factoring in Curry's home road splits for his threes. Him being, the best 3-point shooter in the history of basketball and all.
he's not that good on the road. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He hits all those threes he hits at home always.
Yeah.
All right. Checking the premium Slack.
I am done my crunch now. I'm hitting refresh. Do you know if we've gotten ownership in like the last couple minutes?
I can take a look. Let's see.
59 seconds ago.
Yep, we did. 3 minutes ago.
Let me grab that before I do anything, because that's obviously the most important piece of this.
Also, apparently people posting tweets of Joel Embiid working out and allegedly looking good, whatever you want to take that as. If you have an appetite for risk, there are apparently tweets out there of him going. Jahlil Okafor also took a big jump in ownership as expected.
There was video of Joel Embiid working out on the floor last year, and he was immediately ruled out at 7:05. So I won't believe it until they just tell me he is in or out. All right, here we go. 47% Curry, 41% Lonzo, 26% George Hill. Did I accidentally type something wrong into his shit? I wasn't getting him previously, like on my last crunch before we started this, so just a little concerned.
A lot of leverage against the pitcher going to George Hill.
I gotta knock that back right now. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I don't.
Yeah, take it. Just play George Hill.
I'm just gonna take another minute off of him. Trim it. I mean, he's not really getting any ownership on FanDuel, so he's not really like the guy that I need to take a stand on. On a 22. Give him a little bit more of a haircut. Ooh, gotta delete all of those. A lot of Harden now. 40%.
Oh, okay. Because you have the money to get to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
80% Draymond. That's way too much Jahlil Okafor. I might not be able to fix that in time.
Did you land on any Melly?
No.
No. All right. Poor Melly. Right. I just want Melly to get his proper dues if he can, which he won't.
All right, let's walk Ja back a little bit. And then who was the other stupid one that was driving me crazy? George Hill. Walk George Hill back.
Eric G, we literally just talked about Embiid news. I don't know why coming in saying Embiid news with multiple question marks is the move, but he is out on the court, and that is all we know thus far. No official announcement.
God, that's so much Draymond.
Is Marquise Chris still viable? Lizard King asks, yes, he's still viable. Just a matter of what value you prefer. And some people are already down on him. So if you're already one of those people down on him, you have other value to go to now.
I got to figure out center in the next 8 minutes. Center is tripping me out bad. I have so much Okafor, and I think that's problematic. But he could just go out there and hang a number, because 3,600 on FanDuel is very low bar.
Yeah, I agree.
He's like a 1.2 point per minute guy or something like that. If it goes well for him, like it can go really, really, really well. But if he picks up 2 quick fouls, I could be sick to my stomach for a while.
Yeah, then it's going to be Melly Day.
It will be.
Okafor, a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy last year. 1.06. Yeah. I'm rounding up.
All right, if I needed to bump one center, it would probably be Drummond. That's
now I hate the amount of Alfred Payton I have now. Like I can't fix this when all these things change as we're doing the show. But Alfred Payton got much less valuable throughout this process.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, call me crazy. Alfred Payton got less valuable as a result of there being guys who were cheaper and could probably go at the exact same point that he's going to put up today when David Fizdale pulls him after a quarter.
Bumped up a little bit more Drummond. I might try to bump up a little bit more Jokic just to soften this. That didn't work.
MC Grazia asking, by the way, a Yahoo question. Lonzo, Brogdon, and SGA are all around $25 on Yahoo. Do you have a strong preference between those guys?
Lonzo,
Brogdon, and Shea.
Probably Lonzo now.
I mean, Lonzo's going to be real popular there, but I don't know. I'd probably go Brogdon just because I think that Lonzo will be a bit more owned now that we have the news out there. But if you're doing a tournament, but for cash, I think it would be Lonzo.
Are we really projecting that small amount of ownership to Jahlil Okafor on FanDuel?
He definitely moved up he moved up substantially on DraftKings. He's now the number 3 guy on DraftKings for all the folks out there.
We've met 3% on FanDuel.
Oof.
I can't imagine that's maybe. I mean, it is FanDuel. Opportunity cost is kind of crazy. I'm gonna roll with this. I think it's risky, but it's worth it.
Yeah. I think Okafor, if he's going to be that, I mean, there's no way he's going to be that low owned, I would think still, but.
I'm going to run this. I hate it, but.
That's, if you're not experiencing that when making a lineup, then are you making a lineup correctly is the question.
I have like, he will make or break my night, and that's not a fun spot to be. But
no.
I'm willing to take that risk because it's not out of the realm of possibility that he just goes out there and plays like 28 minutes. And if he does that, he could have 40. And if you have 40 at 3,600, you probably don't have to worry about who you're like the other centers and their performance.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm still not getting Kenrich Williams with mine, but
I gotta look at mine. I don't know how much I have. I just want to get these lineups in now just in case anything else happens.
Yeah, I think for me on DK, I think I would still favor Chris over Kenrich Williams personally, but again, I've established my Marquise Chris bias today. Mitchell Robinson for GPP.
No way.
Yeah, I don't see it, but sure if you want to. I mean, he can get up to 30 minutes. I think that certainly makes him viable, but it's a little bit hard given all the guys we've talked about. You have some studs at center. I don't know that I want to go to Mitch today.
No, that's a real tough sell on this slate. What the fuck is that guy's name? Kenrich Williams. I have just under 30% on FanDuel.
Man, yeah, I'm going to be way under that on Kenrich. There's just no way for me to get there.
3,900 small forward on FanDuel is tasty.
Yeah, Okafor, I'm going to keep walking my Deadman back, but I can get to Okafor, but I find it hard to get to Kenrich personally. But I think the matchup does fit him, though, for whatever that's worth. But projection-wise.
I've got some wild exposures today.
All right, what are the final numbers that you got?
All right, I'll go through each position and the top guys. So at point guard, Curry and Lonzo, both in the 40s. Josh Hart, James Harden, D'Angelo Russell, all essentially 40. Brandon Ingram, 50. TJ Warren, Miles Bridges, and Kenrich Williams, all 30. 80% Draymond. 76% Jahlil Okafor.
Okay. It's a lot of Jahlil Okafor, but I get it.
I mean, he's a guy at 3,600, like you're looking for 30 plus. And I think that he hits 30 plus like 30 something % of the time. And if he does that, like that is so highly valuable to me. I do kind of regret not getting more Giannis. I essentially don't have him 6%. I mean, that's basically where the field is. But like to get to that much Jahlil Okafor, I'm not getting to as much Hazonia. Like Hazonia is projected for 30.6% ownership. I'd rather have Okafor than Hazonia because I think, especially if Okafor is at minuscule to zero ownership, I think that's a big time swing spot for me. And it's not like anybody should be really confident in Mario Hazonia.
Oh, also Jalen Samuels is out for football, by the way, which I know we have NFL Live Before Lock coming up too, but yeah, that's also important news for if you are playing the showdown slate. So everything's going south at once.
Chat's going crazy over that 76% Okafor. I'm going to tell you guys right now, if it was 630, I'd end up with like 40 to 50%.
Wow. Yeah, I get it. I mean, like I would still have a little bit of Melly in there if you're going to go that heavy though. Like I just don't get why you wouldn't go with the pivot at least a little. I mean, I guess you have Kenrich, who's also kind of a pivot. But.
I mean, I'm not trying to hedge.
Okay, I get it. All right, I get it. I get where you're going with it. I'm a little surprised that you just wouldn't play a little bit just from a tournament perspective to go the other way.
Melly's also a power forward.
Okay, that changes the equation.
Not a center.
Okay,
so that would probably change things a little bit.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense then. Yeah, dual position eligibility for him on DK makes him a little more versatile. Get in there in different ways.
K-Diz with the point. Get ready for 2 jaw fouls and Jackson Hayes to debut and run 30 minutes. God. I'd love to see Jackson Hayes getting roasted in a Steph Curry Draymond pick and roll. Look, here's the deal. Okafor is one of the most high risk spots on the slate. I could see him hanging a 40 burger in this one because he has to play every minute. But basically, this is fully hinging upon how many fouls he picks up. If he can keep himself out of foul trouble, he's got to like play by default, or they run out. They end up playing Melly for 30 minutes just because.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are game scripts too, where which I think would benefit your Curry. But if Golden State got up big, I think they would probably take Okafor out and go to Melly because he can actually stretch the floor and do some stuff.
I don't think it matters for the Pels.
I think it does. I think they show the Toronto game when they're not getting production from center and they are falling behind. They want Melly in there.
They're missing their three biggest. They're missing their three best front court players. I don't think that we could really like look into what they're gonna do. They're missing Zion, Derek Favors, and who the fuck am I missing? Who am I missing? Who's the third guy?
Zion, Derek Favors, and
not a big man. And Drew is out as well. So like, I think this is just like a completely different team. So I really don't know what they're gonna do.
I could just see a world where Okafor doesn't totally line up right, and I think Melly's worth having some exposure. That's just how I would leave it. But I agree with your Ja takes and what we know and all that. I think Ja's worth it, but I would put in a little bit. If you are a person much like our Josh going crazy on Okafor, I'd put a little Melly in there because I do think he gives them a look that's different than what Okafor will give them, kind of hanging out by the basket. We'll
just knowing that my projection and Alex's projection are essentially the same, which they pretty much always are. In my player pool, our totals and projected points are separated by 4. 2,983 to 2,979.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay. So great minds think alike today.
We are locked.
We are locked. All right, guys. Well, hit that like button before you go. And keep your eyes peeled on the premium Slack if you are a member there, because there'll be stuff coming in throughout the course of the next hour or so that'll be important here. We didn't get our Joel Embiid news officially, I don't believe.
He's in.
We did it. We got it right now. That's fun. He will play Monday.
Embiid is in.
Yep. Cool. So Joel Embiid is going to play. You got your Joel Embiid going against your Jahlil Okafor. That'll be fun for you. When he gets 2 fouls and he's done.
Wait, what?
Now that Embiid's in there, if you are playing, you're not playing any Embiid, I presume. So you'll be having Jahlil Okafor going up against the nominal amount of Embiid out there, which will be.
I mean, I wasn't playing. I projected Embiid in. I wasn't getting him regardless.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. We don't need to do that.
Joel Embiid is going to have essentially zero ownership on FanDuel.
Yeah.
No one's going to. There's no late swap. So like, he wasn't going to be in regardless.
Okay. Don't put Embiid out in the chat. That gets you banned. Don't give fake news in the chat. That's just a dick move.
Yep.
All right. We're locked, guys. So we'll save Daddy Likes for later in the week with Eddie because we got some stuff to do. We got another show coming up for the NFL Showdown slate coming up tonight. So subscribe, hit that notification bell. You know when those guys go live. Of course, thank you to SuperDraft, our sponsor on here. Get $20 free with any deposit of $100 or more at superdraft.com. Use the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, to get that for yourself. And check out their multiplier contest because that's a way where you can play without any salaries at all. Don't have to do all the data crunching that Josh just did. You just kind of make the plays and go from your gut. That's what you like to see out there. So go to superdraft.com. Take advantage of the overlay they have on there. It's just a good value overall. And Josh, any parting words for you before we call it quits?
Best of luck, everybody, tonight. If you're on the Jahlil Okafor train with me, let's hope that it doesn't come off the tracks immediately. My wife is out of town, so I will actually watch that game. Very excited for 8 o'clock. I might not be sober by 8:30, so if anybody wants to hang out, I'll be around.
Here's hoping that Jahlil Okafor and Marquise Chris together rise to the top of tonight's fantasy games that we have everywhere. And of course, we wish you guys the best of luck because this was a harrowing last hour, but we got a lot of stuff coming up on the channel. So keep your eyes peeled for the NFL Showdown stuff coming up momentarily. All right. Bye, guys.
Later, guys.